Hello, everyone. It's been a minute since I last did a live stream. This is, this is very interesting news. Very interesting news. There's some really wild allegations being made. So if you've been following this over the last 24 hours, well, what do you make of it? If you don't know anything about it, don't worry, I'll catch you up. But I was just about to go to bed last night, and I'm 5 hours ahead of Eastern. And I checked the site previously known as Twitter, and there was Brian Entin making this allegation that Alex Murdaugh's... It is nuts. You're right. You're right. It is nuts. It's crazy. It's insane. It is. It really is. It really is. Yeah, so the attorneys for Alex Murdaugh doing a press conference in half an hour's time. So I've got the presser loaded up in the background. It's all good to go. I think about 1 million people are going to be streaming the press conference live to get the crazy truth. Well, I don't know what to tell you. It's insane. So I will catch you up if you've not seen any news today. Don't worry. I'll just say a few hellos before we do that. Just give people a chance to come in. I'm not expecting this stream to be especially busy because like Law and Crime Network will be streaming it, and WFLA will be streaming it, and much bigger YouTubers than me will be streaming it. So I don't expect the chat to be busy. So we can spend a couple of minutes saying hello to people. Yeah, Noodle is great. Noodle is doing very well. He's supposed to have minimal exercise, but he's going stir crazy. He's jumping about all over the place. He was meant to have a checkup this evening, but it was too hot to take him out, so I'm taking him in the morning for his checkup. But he's healing fine, and he's all good. Keeps taking his cone off, but he seems to be handling it all right. Fitz News had a nice interview with Miss Becky. She seemed genuinely nice, but cringed when she talked so personally about the jury. Clerk of Court Becky Hill shares Murdaugh trial. I haven't seen that, but I'll go and check it out later. Rebecca. Hello, Aussie TV. Sweet Peas, Katie. South Carolina finally looking at judicial corruption. I mean, if this is true, if all this is true, then he does deserve a new trial, I'm sorry to say. Because I'm sorry to say, because I believe he's guilty. I do. I think the evidence was compelling. I mean, it was largely circumstantial, but it was the kennels. The kennels. It's the kennels that did it for me, and the phone records. Like, all the ballistic stuff they did, I was like, yeah, okay, that's great. But the kennel video, him being there at the kennels 4 minutes before Maggie and Paul's phones had no response. Maggie and Paul were both in the middle of conversations. So we know at what moment they died, or at least what minute they died, when both of their phones fell silent, when text messages that were ongoing between different people stopped. And Alec was there 4 minutes. That kennel video was 4 minutes before those phones stopped for the very last time, stopped, transmitting text messages. So if Alex Murdaugh is going to try to say that someone else murdered them, well, who? And is Alec simultaneously the most unluckiest man in the world and the most luckiest man in the world? I mean, he's unlucky that he's been, caught for this and jailed for this. if someone else did it. But he's very lucky that he just happened to have left by the time this mysterious murderer appeared. So in what universe can you be the unluckiest man and at the same time the luckiest man alive? So it's going to have to be pretty compelling evidence, new evidence that wasn't presented at the trial to convince me that he is not guilty. Ah, thank you. You're going to watch it with me. Thank you, thank you. Who else have we got in the house? Caitlin, Lewin, Lisa. Oh, happy to have a live, even if it's AM. You must be on the west coast of America somewhere for it to be morning. Ah, thank you. Ah, I do try. Sometimes I come on and I'm a bit silly and you don't learn anything apart from just how silly I can be. Hi, Liplock No More from Arkansas. Good evening, everyone from Lancashire, the UK. We've got someone from Alabama, from Shropshire. It's not too far from me. The clerk of the court is in a lot of trouble. She is. And on that note, shall we fill everybody in what this this clerk of the court's been doing? I mean, you know, if it's true, if Dick Harpootlian and Jim Griffin have absolutely solid evidence that this happened, then what? Please explain what a merkin is. I've never heard of that word before, so I'm sorry I can't. What is a merkin? Does anybody know? A merkin. Ah, thank you, Caitlin. Yorkshire. Yorkshire. The enemy. The enemy. Ah, I love silly Michelle. All right, without further ado, let's fill you in on what's been going on. So I'm reading this from The Independent because they've been updating throughout the day. I've had to keep going back to see what they've been saying. So I'll put a link to this in the chat because they're doing live updates. I mean, it'll be superfluous once the press has happened, but just in case anybody does want to go back and read it. So, convicted killer Alec Murdaugh wants a new trial. In a bombshell motion filed on Tuesday, his attorneys Dick Harpootlian, who's 74 years old, by the way. So I didn't know he was that old. He seemed throughout the trial that he was half asleep most of the time. Like Jim Griffin did a lot of the talking. But I hope he does get a new trial. I mean, it's horrible. It's horrible for the family, Maggie's family, to have to go through all of this again. I mean, if there genuinely has been corruption, then he does deserve a new trial, even if it's the same outcome. However, it's horrible for the families. But my own selfishness, I want to see another trial because I can make interesting memes for the site previously known of Twitter with Dick Harpootlian and Jim Griffin as Muppets. I can continue my little meme making. But anyway, in a bombshell motion filed on Tuesday, his attorneys, Dick Harpootlian and Jim Griffin, allege South Carolina Clerk of Court Rebecca Hill tampered with the jury at his trial because she was driven by fame and a desire to secure a book deal. So they're going to do the presser now. This update, I just thought was wild. It's wild. So a large portion of the 65-page motion, I haven't seen this. Has anybody actually got the 65 pages? Because I haven't got it and I want to read it. centres around juror number 785. So this is Eggate. Do you remember Eggate? The juror that was dismissed shortly before deliberations began. She went all the way through and then she was dismissed. And it goes into this little update here, goes into why she was dismissed. So if you need a refresher, don't worry, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. But she said to the court she needed to go back to the jury room to get a dozen eggs, to collect her eggs. And I had a little bit of a sneaky feeling that we hadn't seen the end of Eggate. You know, when Judge Newman let the trial continue, and why shouldn't he have let the trial continue? If one juror is dismissed, she's exchanged, you know, her place is given to an alternate. It should be no problem. You know, what's jury selection for? If the jurors already had a preconceived idea of guilt or innocence, then they shouldn't be on the jury, and jury selection should ensure. Or else why did they spend so long on jury selection? So those jurors should have been impartial, which is why if you take one juror out for, you know, that she's been exchanging messages while she was drunk, well, okay, she needs to be dismissed, but being replaced by an alternate shouldn't affect the outcome, because both the jurors and the alternate jurors were selected during the very same process. So there should be no problem for justice. All of those jurors should be impartial. So the thing about this Rebecca Hill, clerk of court, is a massive allegation to make. So the woman removed for allegedly discussing the case with at least 3 other people outside the court. She then surprised the court when she asked to pick up her dozen eggs from the jury room before she left. Right, according to the motion, Miss Hill had gone to Judge Newman on the 27th of February, the day after Murdaugh testified. So we're remembering all this. Is this all coming back to you? Claiming she had seen a post in a local Facebook group, Walterborough Word of Mouth, from juror 785's former husband, Tim Stone. So it was Miss Hill who went to Judge Newman and said, hold on a minute, there's a juror that's potentially being a bit loose-lipped here. We need to investigate. The post purportedly claimed that the juror was drinking with her ex-husband. Nothing ever comes good of drinking with an ex. Nothing good comes of it. Take it from one who knows. Right? Mistakes are made when you drink with your ex. So she became drunk. She expressed her views on whether Murdaugh was innocent or guilty. A follow-up post from an account called Timothy Stone apologized for the post, saying that he was driven by Satan. What? These are things that are just wild. When Miss Hill confronted the juror about the post, the juror said she hadn't seen her ex-husband in 10 years. So she hadn't seen her ex-husband in 10 years, decided to go drinking with him, right? Told him a bunch of stuff about the trial, shared it with people, and he went online. He went online and then subsequently apologized, saying he was driven by Satan. So is Satan juror, what's her name? Juror 785. It's just wild. Miss Hill allegedly told the juror that SLED, so that's the state police in South Carolina, and Colleton County Sheriff's Office personnel had gone to Mr. Stone's house and that he had confirmed he made the post. She then alleged she asked juror 785 whether she was Satan, but no, whether she was inclined to vote guilty or not guilty. Well, she shouldn't have done that. She shouldn't have done that. Exactly. What were they drinking? Yeah, it's like absinthe or something. Something crazy. Murdaugh's attorneys claim that the original post was fictitious And that a download of Mr. Soane's Facebook shows he did not make either post. This is wild. It's wild. Moonshine. Yeah, they were. Is it moonshine country down there? One day, I haven't drunk for many years for reasons that, you know, I do silly things. When I've had a drink, I can't handle alcohol at all. And I declare war with Yorkshire. Yeah, so I don't drink. I don't like the way it makes me feel. I don't like the taste. But one day, it's on my bucket list. I've got to try moonshine. Now, we don't seem to have it in the UK. So one day, I'm going to try and get some. Anyway, Murdaugh's attorney claimed that Timothy's post didn't come from him. I mean, this is just wild. So you can't really see this very well, but you can just about make it out. So this is the post from Timothy Stone, which is, you're telling me no, don't do it. So this is apparently Juror 785's ex-husband, but now Dick and Jim are claiming that this was not Timothy Stone's post. I mean, what proof do they have? I need to read this 65-page motion for myself. Please don't try moonshine. Oh, no, you nearly died. Oh, blimey. Oh, no. Apple pie moonshine could probably be used as a bomb. Tastes like straight up lighter fluid. Oh, you may be putting me off a little bit now, but you know, just one little taste. Anyway, so this is from Timothy Stone. Allegedly, it isn't, but folks, I posted an ugly post yesterday to which I have deleted, and I kind of, in a roundabout way, directed it towards a certain person. And I would like to apologize to everyone who read it that ugly for me to do that. And yes, I let Satan control me. And I broke down and started drinking. And when I was drunk, I made that post. And I'm sorry. Wow. So who is Rebecca Hill? So Colleton County Clerk of Court, Becky Hill, is in her first term. So she's a newbie. Is being accused by Alec Murdaugh's defense attorneys of tampering with the jury. So they claim she betrayed her oath of office for money and fame, and that off the back of her work on the case secured a deal for a book entitled Behind the Doors of Justice. Hill was a state judicial court reporter for 12 years before being elected as clerk of court for Colleton County. A book about the Murdaugh murders was published in July, just months after Alex Murdaugh was found guilty. All right, let's have a look. What's it called? Behind the Doors of Justice. Okay, Amazon. Behind the Doors of Justice, Becky Hill. Oh, it's here. Behind the Doors of Justice, the Murdaugh murders. So you can get it on Audible. Free Audible trial. Paperback, $17.27. This is pounds, so whatever this is in. Kindle edition, $7.85. Wow. Wow, so there is actually a book. Wow. She shouldn't be allowed to do that. It could get better reviews than Steve's book. Oh, let's have a look at the reviews. Okay. Any personal account of a person closely associated with famous criminal is always interested. Comes across as a sympathetic writer. Book is limited to own experience. Local South Carolina Law Country author offers several points in blah, blah, blah. Corruption is in a lot of places, but they really seem to have trouble separating folksiness from law there. The author mentions that sprinkle of Southern charm in the community translates. This is the thing, right? This is the thing that got me before the trial started. Why did they have the trial in Colleton County? The very courtroom that had Alec Murdaugh's granddaddy's portrait in. They had to take the portrait down to make the jury, to make the process fairer. They had to take granddaddy's portrait down. Why didn't they take the trial to another county completely, like miles away from where the Murdaughs have influence? Do I think it was done purposefully? Well, Dick Harpootlian and Jim Griffin would say that it's done for her personal gain. So the motion also claims that Miss Hill had frequent private conversations with the jury foreperson, with the pair often disappearing to private rooms for 5 or 10 minutes at a time. I mean, have they got proof of this? Have they got proof of this? I mean, if there is a new trial, I want it out of the vicinity, completely out of the vicinity of the Murdaugh country. So Colleton County and the surrounding counties out. Take it away, and that means you will have a truly impartial jury pool who are not for the Murdaughs, but also not against the Murdaughs, because in Murdaugh country, where this family have had influence for many, many generations, there's people that will vote for them, so to speak, because of their influence, but also they'll have collected a whole bunch of enemies. So in both ways, a jury can be infiltrated. So it did worry me when that trial, when the jury was selected from Colleton County and the trial took place in the very courtroom that Alec's granddaddy's portrait was at. Take it away. Take it like 100 miles away from Murdaugh country and choose a county where you can get a truly impartial jury. I'm sure that can't be difficult because there's many, many, many trials where that happens. Same in the UK, right? The murder of Olivia Pratt-Corbell from Liverpool. Her trial was taken. Thomas Cashman, who was the guy who shot her and murdered her, there was no way in the world that Thomas Cashman would get a fair trial in Liverpool or in any of the surrounding counties. They took it to Manchester. They took it to Manchester so that Thomas Cashman had a better chance of having a fair trial. I mean, it's not something that is unusual. It's something that is very common. Shouldn't be difficult. So during the trial, Miss Hill asked jurors for their opinions about Mr. Murdaugh's guilt or innocence. Miss Hill invented a story about a Facebook post to remove a juror she believed might vote not guilty. So Miss Hill was against Murdaugh, so she was trying to persuade the jury, in a way, to vote guilty. Miss Hill pressured the jurors to reach a quick verdict, and it was very quick. I was really surprised how quick it came back. It came back within 3 hours. Like, I started that trial with a completely open mind. Like, I knew the case. I knew what Alec and his family were doing down there and the boat crash and that. I knew all of that, but I didn't know the ins and outs of the case. So I started the trial impartial, truly impartial. And the evidence persuaded me that he was guilty. So the jury should be able to assess that evidence like I assess that evidence. And it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to reach the same conclusions I did. But all the evidence there was laid out in a fair way from both sides. And Judge Newman was outstanding of keeping it all together. But I truly thought when they went to deliberate that it was going to be a long deliberation. And I honestly did not know which way the jury was going to go, not because the evidence was poor against him, but simply because this is Murdaugh country. So, I don't know. So she told them from the outset the deliberations shouldn't take them long. Just hours after they returned a guilty verdict, his attorneys alleged Miss Hill flew with jurors to New York, and some of the panelists waived their anonymity to appear on NBC's Today Show. That's true. In conclusion, they claim that the court clerk's actions violated Murdaugh's constitutional right to a fair and impartial jury. And if this can all be proven, then it absolutely has. It absolutely has. Yeah, that's the impression I get, that they own that courthouse. They wanted it there. The press is starting now. Hey, okay, let's go.
On a motion for a new trial. Concurrently, we've
Can you hear that, guys? I'll rewind it a minute.
Attorney to open a federal investigation.
Can you hear it?
Right. The allegations in the petition filed today speak for themselves.
Ask the court.
I'll rewind it a minute.
Is as the amount of
system, and if it doesn't, what are
how do you
back after?
Yeah, let's listen in, Peter.
Sound all good? Little low, okay.
Jim Griffin will have a couple words to say, and then we'll answer questions. Today, Jim Griffin and I filed a petition based on newly discovered evidence with the South Carolina Court of Appeals to stay Alec Murdaugh's appeal while a hearing is held on a motion for a new trial. Concurrently, we've sent a request to the South Carolina U.S. Attorney to open a federal investigation into the violation of Alec Murdaugh's civil rights. The allegations in the petition filed today speak for themselves, but we believe they explain a number of peculiarities in the 6-week trial. We request that SWED stand down on initiating any investigation of these allegations, since they are heavily invested in maintaining Alec's convictions. We suggest they wait for the Court of Appeals to rule and receive direction from the trial court. If the Court of Appeals remands the case for an evidentiary hearing, if the Court of Appeals remands the case for an evidentiary hearing, we would also request that those in the media and the public respect the privacy of those in filing. Jim and I want to thank those on our team who stand behind us and have worked tirelessly to ferret out the truth. Alec Murdaugh maintained and still maintains his innocence in the murder of Maggie and Paul, and believes the truth will ultimately prevail. Jim?
The right to a jury trial,
Stand over here.
the right to a jury trial is a fundamental principle of our justice system. Jurors must be free from outside influences and must decide the case solely on the evidence presented in the courtroom, subject to the rules of evidence, subject to the rules of the court, and most importantly, subject to the crucible of cross-examination that's guaranteed by the Sixth Amendment to the Constitution, and that is the right to confront witnesses. When jurors receive private communications outside the confines of a public courtroom, the Sixth Amendment is violated and numerous other constitutional rights are violated. And that's not Jim Griffin on the law. That is the law of the land. And I want to quote from a decision from the South Carolina Court of Appeals, which is behind me, and states this: where there is a private communication of a court official to members of the jury, an occurrence which cannot be tolerated if the sanctity of the jury system is to be maintained, a new trial must be granted unless it clearly appears that the subject matter of the communication was harmless and could not have affected the verdict. What we had filed today, supported by sworn testimony of jurors, is that the clerk of court had improper private communications with the jurors, and the subject matter of those communications was the credibility of the defense that the Murdaugh legal defense team put up, and it was the believability of the defendant's own testimony. Now, there's been a lot of talked about whether Alex should have taken the stand. I can assure you, when we considered what factors and what we should and should not do and considered whether he should take the stand, we never considered the likelihood, as reported to us by the jurors, that the clerk of court would go in to the sanctity of the jury room before he testified and tell the jurors, don't be fooled by his testimony. And no reason to believe that it's not. There's no choice but the courts to grant a new trial.
Thank you. Any questions? No? Okay.
When the person was pulled away at those cells, did you guys see that, or did you find out after the fact?
Well, I think we observed it. We did. No, I was there.
Oh,
Yeah. I was there. I watched it. But I mean, look, we were not looking to impute any nefarious conduct. But clearly, what the jurors reported to us, that they were off talking, the forelady and the clerk. I saw them together, but I wasn't watching. I believe. Look, I've been doing this almost 50 years. The bedrock of any trial, and I've done hundreds of them, is that the clerk of court is the person that makes sure the jury gets their food. If they're put up for the night, someplace to stay, their travel accommodations are met. They're not someone that ever should talk to them about the case. I've never had it happen. Again, I've been doing this for a very long time. Never heard of it happening until this case.
And one thing we want everyone to understand, that the clerk of court is an elected official by the people, not appointed by the judge, not appointed by the judiciary. It's a public official who's elected and is an independent state actor. And so what we're complaining about in the motion that we filed today is the conduct of an elected official, not conduct by Judge Newman or anybody in the unified court system.
And I think it's important also to understand that she is a state actor, and that's why we forwarded today a letter to the U.S. Attorney asking them to open an investigation into the violation of Alec Murdaugh's civil rights by a state actor under color of state law.
I believe you guys had 4 jurors that you had affidavits for in the paperwork you filed. Did they reach out to you, or did you guys reach out to them?
Well, this is an interesting story. Let Jim tell you.
So immediately in the aftermath of the verdict, we had received information that we needed to look into what happened in the jury room. We started down that road, and we met a zone of silence. No jurors would speak to us. And so we were, what I like to call, we were given the Heisman, right? And then when the clerk of court wrote her book, published her book, that zone of silence collapsed. And jurors were upset about that, the ones we talked with, and they were more than willing to come forward and tell us the things that we had sort of heard through a whisper campaign. But, and so as a result of that, we were able to interview some jurors. Now, there's still a number of jurors who maintain that zone of silence, who have not talked to us. We did try to reach out to most all of them that we could get in touch with, but the information we got, I can tell you, was independent of each juror. The first juror we talked to, we got information about Ms. Hill saying, "Don't be fooled." And then the second juror, independent of the first juror, says the same thing, and the third juror, independent of the other two, say the same thing. And so we're very confident that the information is accurate.
Well,
The expectation timeline.
what
a rule it'll be, how fast you want.
ask them. I mean, we don't have any control over that. We just did receive a notice from the Court of Appeals that the Attorney General has 10 days to respond to our motion. Okay. Now, I think what's interesting to me, again, having done this for so long, is that once we had that initial contact with that first juror, we began going around. We had a list and knocking on, literally on Sundays, knocking on jurors' doors, asking them to speak with us. Some of them wouldn't come out. Some of us told us never to come back. But some did, and some talked to us. I'll give you an example. And one of the things we heard was once the jury went out, even though there were 6 smokers and they were given smoke breaks during the entire trial, once the jury went out, they were told no more smoke breaks. No, people that want nicotine, you're going to have to get a verdict first. I mean, it's that kind of stuff. Now that indicates something, and the court would be the one to communicate that. Why? So a bunch of folks told us stuff that appeared to be inconsequential, but in the total context indicated to us that what we put in this petition about the clerk is credible. And based on sworn testimony from 2 jurors, and we interviewed a third. My paralegal, Holly Miller, has given you an affidavit or filed an affidavit on what she told us. A lot of these folks just don't want to get involved, but they're going to be involved if we get a hearing, because each and every one of them is going to have to testify in an open court before you as to what happened and what didn't happen.
It would appear that
Wait, one at a time. Who?
It would appear that Judge Newman was at least aware of some of the allegations that you talk about in your motion. For example, the Facebook post with juror 785, and the judge actually said, "Oh boy, I'm not too pleased about the clerk interrogating a juror as opposed to coming to me and happening it to me."
Well, and that's a good point. There's no suggestion that the judge did anything untoward. But what that does do, if it comes back, he may end up being a witness. So, I mean, but until the Court of Appeals acts, that issue does not have to be dealt with.
But if the fact is that the court was aware of some of these issues but still didn't intervene, how concerned are you?
We don't know. We don't know that he didn't intervene. That's what I'm saying. He's a witness. We need to know.
Do you feel that this evidence is strong enough such that it could have changed the verdict had it been introduced in trial?
You know, that's not the legal test. The legal test is the subject matter prejudicial to the defense? It's not would it have made a difference in the outcome? Was the subject matter of the improper private conversation material to the defense? If it's immaterial, like what do you want to have for dinner? Do you want to take a smoke break? Do you want to go home? Those are immaterial matters. But when the subject matter is, and is reported under oath by these jurors, it was a direction on how you should receive Alec Murdaugh's testimony. You should look at him. Don't be fooled by him. That subject matter is absolutely material. That's the core of our defense. And that is something that we had no chance to defend against. And so we strongly believe if that evidence is accurate, and the law will require a new trial.
So when was the last time you spoke with your client? When was the last time
No
you spoke
comment.
with your client, and what has he shared with you with this latest motion?
Well, I can't talk about attorney-client privilege information. I can tell you that when I shared with him the affidavits, he's a lawyer. He was astonished. He was shaking. He was in disbelief. And he thanked Mr. Harpootlian, Mr. Barber, and myself for spending our weekends on dirt roads in Colleton County.
And by the way, we've seen more of Colleton County on dirt roads, in places we're city boys, we didn't believe existed in this state, looking for folks that would talk to us. A lot of doors slammed in our face.
Do you think Ms. Hill should still have her job?
I'm sorry?
Do you think Ms. Hill should still have her job?
No comment. I'm sorry, what?
The Facebook posting from the ex-husband of the dismissed juror. There's a lot of detail in there about that. And there's some in-camera transcripts there as well. Was this not something that was just handled very quickly? The fact that you guys are alleging it didn't exist at all and perhaps was conspired to be created to get this juror dismissed?
Yes.
That's a very serious allegation.
It's all serious. Everything we've alleged, everything in those affidavits is serious. This is a very serious matter. And again,
So what you see in the sworn testimony that's been filed today is Ms. Hill told the court that there was a Facebook post by this juror's ex-husband. the ex-husband has filed an affidavit saying, I've never posted a Facebook post. Ms. Hill in her office says he must have deleted it. We can't find it. But they produced a Facebook post from someone with the same name apologizing for an earlier Facebook post and that Satan made him do it and et cetera, et cetera. And Ms. Hill related that as being this juror's ex-husband. Ms. Hill had this juror's ex-husband's photograph. You can match them up. They don't match. And what we do know, and we laid it out in detail in our brief, is that the apology Facebook post was posted, I think, on February 16th. It said we had deleted it the day before, February 15th. Ms. Hill is telling Judge Newman on February 23rd that I just saw this Facebook post. Impossible. Impossible. We also have in there sworn testimony that Ms. Hill told this juror that SLED went out and confirmed with your ex-husband that he posted that. Not true, according to the sworn testimony.
And Phil Barber and I and Howie Miller from my office went down and interviewed the ex-husband, and he allowed us to, I wouldn't know how to do it, but Phil did, to download his entire Facebook history. None of that is in there. So, I mean, again, we've done what we can do. We're not the police. You know, we have no way to compel anybody to talk to us or give us anything. We've asked very nicely. Now, I will say this. The two jurors that gave affidavits have an attorney, Joe McCullough, who was skulking around here a moment ago back there. So if you want to know about those two jurors, you may want to have a chat with him.
What's the motivation of the jurors talking to us?
What?
What's the motivation, do you think, of the jurors talking to us? Are they upset with the clerk?
I think they were upset with the way things went. And the clerk, I think they may very well, yes, they're upset with the clerk. They're upset with the way this played out.
Are they regretting their vote?
Can't comment on that.
The Facebook post, the person who posted the original post, have you ever gotten an opportunity to speak with them? And so,
No. I mean, the original post, we don't know whether it ever existed.
But the apology post, did you speak to him, Phil?
No, we did not speak.
Timeline from the FBI regarding your request for investigation?
Well, as you know, having talked to the FBI before, no. They're not going to tell us anything.
In your letter to the U.S. Attorney, you mentioned the importance of having the FBI investigate as opposed to SLED, for example. Can you talk about the importance of having the FBI involved?
Well, having anybody but SLED investigate it. SLED is very invested in this conviction. How invested? Well, the agent, David Owens, that testified under cross-examination by Jim, admitted two things. One, he perjured himself in front of the grand jury. And two, he fabricated evidence. SLED made him this year's Law Enforcement Officer of the Year. So is that the agency that ought to be going to jurors? I don't think so. I think that the court, if this is remanded back, the trial court should pick somebody else. If the FBI is not doing it, then there's the sheriff's departments, there are other folk, not Colleton County, but other sheriff's departments that could go out and interview jurors or bring them to court. I mean, all these jurors are going to end up testifying anyway. There may not be any reason to go out and interview them. You may just put a subpoena on them, bring them to court.
how important is your appeal if jurors testify under oath in a place where, like you say, through the zone of silence, when they have to talk to y'all?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that would happen if we get the hearing that we've requested. That's why we've requested the hearing, so that we can get subpoena power and we can get some subpoena, not just individuals come to court, jurors come to court, witnesses come to court, but subpoena records, phone records, for example, emails, for example. I mean, so with a hearing, we have a broad array of assets at our disposal to bring evidence to court. Right now, we've got nothing except Dick's Mercedes and dirt roads in Colleton County.
Have you heard from any jurors who refute what the other jurors are saying?
No, we've not had any juror contradict anything what the other jurors are saying. What you saw in some of the affidavits is the jurors were separated in two rooms and sort of broke up from, guys in one room, gals in another room. I don't know if that was appropriate. Men in one room, females in another room. And so the comments that we've gotten on the sworn affidavits come from the ladies' room, if you will, more so than the men's room. But we do have information that we submitted from one juror where he does acknowledge that she talked to him about evidence, about autopsy photos, and don't be upset about them. I mean, that should not be happening. That should not be happening. And this juror was a smoker, and he relayed to us basically the coercive effect of people who have a nicotine habit not able to smoke
until they reach a verdict.
Until they reach a verdict, and so that's what we got.
Wait a second.
I had an issue with the cable at the very. Can you read that the initial motion to me real fast? Because I had an issue with sending.
Do what now?
The motion you read. Can you read that? The very first thing. I didn't catch it.
I mean, I'll read it for you after we get done with this, but I don't think I ought to keep all these folks doing that.
Would you request a change of venue?
Well, you got to get a new trial before you get there, and that's not something we're going to talk about today. And yes, ma'am. We don't. Well, we know some of the statements were made in front of the jurors in the one jury room. Now, understand that I think there are only 6 jurors in that room, or maybe 8. I'm not sure, but not all the jurors would have been present for all the statements. Clearly, they were given in one room or the other.
And just to be clear, the catalyst for reinvestigating this was the publication of this book.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
So we didn't stop investigating, but we were hitting brick walls until her book came out, and then jurors who obviously were not comfortable with how she handled matters were even less comfortable with her going on a book tour and making money off what she did. That's what was reported to us.
Now, she has said her book is self-published. That really doesn't sound like somebody who's getting a lot of money. What do you say to that if somebody says, well, she's self-published?
Well, she's trying to make a lot of money. That's the point. I mean, she's trying to make money off of it. She's selling the book. I mean, the question is, was it a successful scheme? I don't know. I mean, if you've read it, I'm not going to give a book review here, but I don't know that you buy the book. I mean, it's not well written. The story she tells is not accurate, in our opinion, at least the facts as we saw them.
What did you think about the passage of her book that describes going to Moselle with the jurors?
Well, the problem I have with what she says in there is, after going to Moselle, we, if you notice, she used the plural we, felt such and such and such and such. Is that the jurors and her? I mean, I think that's great cross-examination for her when she testifies in this matter before the trial judge, if the Court of Appeals sends it back.
Do you want any hearing in this matter to be public?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We want all y'all there. We miss you. Any other questions?
Did you ever
You said you're
contact?
investigating, so along your investigations into the alleged jury misconduct for these allegations, have you uncovered any additional things that you would present in a second trial for your defense?
Let's not talk about that.
Yeah, no. If we are lucky enough to get a second trial, you have to wait and see. We're not going to disclose any of that today.
Have you
What
tried
is
to?
your optimism for getting for this motion?
I'm very optimistic that ultimately we will get a new trial. How long that'll take, I don't know.
Have you tried to reach Clerk Hill, ask her any questions about any of this?
We've not reached out to Clerk Hill. We had reached out to some other folks, and based on the information we received, we thought it would be pointless to reach out.
Do you have any alternate suspects or suspects?
What now?
Do you have any alternate suspects or suspects to case?
We're focused on getting him a new trial. That's what we've been working on. Anything else? No? Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Let me read this statement to him real quick. Who wanted the statement?
That is Mr. Harpootlian, Mr. Griffin, and Mr. Barber speaking.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. all the way through, all the way through that, all I could think about was these two guys and all the memes I could make. They are complete and utter muppets. They are muppets. They have nothing. They have nothing. I said 20 minutes ago before this started, these are massive claims. I hope they have the evidence to back it up. You know, I expected that they got some kind of recording or they'd got proof, absolute proof that Timothy Stone's Facebook post wasn't made by him. There's just nothing there. And are they allowed, right? This is just, if they are claiming a judicial misconduct, and I'm not saying that what Becky Hill may have done was right, but now the stuff that came out today, all the crazy stuff that came out today, I'm now thinking, is any of that true? I mean, I don't feel comfortable about a clerk of court who's presumably still serving as a clerk of court writing a book. I don't feel entirely comfortable about that. Statler and Waldorf, exactly, Sharon. That's exactly who they are. They look like him as well. They look really like him. But are they allowed to go to jurors' houses? You know, driving around Colleton County on the dirt roads, hunting down jurors. I mean, those conversations, I'm worried about the nature of those conversations because this is Murdaugh country. And this is the Old Boys Network. And Dick Harpootlian and Jim Griffin have known the Murdaughs for many, many years. And you've got to think that these jurors were impartial. The jury selection process, I'm sure, was as rigorous as any other. They were impartial. If Becky Hill did try to have conversations with them before deliberations, that's wrong. That's absolutely wrong. Right? I'm pretty sure that the running of a court is very similar in the US as it is in the UK, because the US judicial system is based on that of the UK. And I was a juror on a murder trial at the beginning of 2020, just before we went into lockdown. And our clerk of the court, she'd come and collect us from the holding area. And she'd come and collect us and take us up to court 10. And she said nothing. She would occasionally make a comment about the weather, or, you know, just very, very innocuous small talk. She said nothing whatsoever to any of us. And when we went to deliberate, there was no way we could have gone for a smoke. Now, we only deliberated for about an hour and a half. But we went into that deliberation room about, I want to say about 11 o'clock in the morning. And we were locked in. We were locked into this room. All our electronics and personal items were locked. They were taken away from us and locked in a cupboard. The door was locked behind us, and it was like a little suite. It had an ensuite toilet. So we were locked in. We were truly locked in. Now, I don't know whether at what point, if we'd have gone, you know, into the hours, they'd have brought us some food. It didn't go that long, right? They'd have brought us some food. and we'd have been there until the judge said it was time to leave. There was no way that we could have gone for a smoke if we wanted to. So all this nonsense about jurors were told that they couldn't have a smoke. Well, isn't that just standard practice? Isn't that just, you know, what happens in jury deliberations? Thank you for becoming a member, Terry White. Welcome to the Secret Agents Club. Thank you for joining. You locked in before mobiles. Just everything. We had to, like I had a phone, I had a laptop with me because I was kind of doing work in the breaks and stuff. Yeah, they were all locked in this big cupboard, like these kind of drawers, if you will, that pulled out, and then they were just all put in this cupboard and locked. And we were literally locked into this room. And then she said, when you're ready to give us a verdict, just bang on the door. And I was the jury foreperson, so when we were done, I went and banged on the door, and she was sitting outside. She was sitting outside guarding us. That's how it worked. So if this Becky Hill has been loose-lipped and she's said things to the jury she shouldn't have done, that's wrong. That's wrong. Thank you, Ashley, for the $20. That's very kind of you. Thanks for being me, says the avocado. No smoke breaks, no. I mean, you know, if you're that addicted, then maybe you would get some nicotine gum, like in preparation for being locked in. You knew what was to come. You truly knew what was to come. So you'd need some nicotine gum. But it is wrong. If she did that, it's wrong. However, Dick and Jim are, in my opinion, now engaged in a warfare against the court to get their own way. That's how it feels. That's just my opinion. That's just the way it felt. That they were trying everything, that no one would talk to them until this book came out. And then, a couple of jurors were willing to, go on record with them. Well, one of the people who went on record with them was the Eggate lady, was the lady who was dismissed. So, she wants her 15-minute of fame. So her 15-minute of fame is standing up at a hearing, at some point in the future and telling her story. Mummy of Hamsters, member for 13 months. Yeah, lawyers, liars, yeah. I mean, I'm sure there are some good lawyers out there, but good old boys network. Exactly. So when they were driving round, someone has, let me just, it doesn't come up on. Emily gifted 5 memberships. Thank you, Emily. That doesn't come up on StreamYard. Let's have a see who got them. Sharon, Samantha, Jean, your local grandmummy, Shannon's copper. Can't read. Thank you. Anna dozen eggs, yeah. So she's a bit peed off that she was dismissed. Well, it's irrelevant. Right, look at this, right. So what do they actually have? What evidence do they actually have? They have the testimony from a juror that was dismissed before deliberations took place, and she was replaced by an alternate who had been selected in the same rigorous process that was agreed by both sides, both the prosecution and the defense, have a say in the picking of the jury. Right? It's all up front and it's done fairly, and they took the time, and they got 12 impartial jurors and what was it, 6 alternates. So this woman, the egg lady, who's spoken to them to tell her story, well, whatever she says about what went on behind the scenes is irrelevant to the verdict, because she wasn't there deliberating. She'd been dismissed before deliberations started. Her role was gone. So whatever went on, these Facebook things, whatever went on, whether Timothy Stone was under the influence of Satan when he made a nasty Facebook post and he spread some tea, irrelevant. He wasn't a juror, irrelevant. Whatever she said to him is irrelevant. That was dealt with. Yeah, exactly. She was upset. She was upset because she was dismissed. So then Dick Harpootlian and Jim Griffin got in their Mercedes, in Dick's Mercedes, driving round the dirt roads in Colleton County, trying to find all these other jurors. Oh, you had smoke breaks. You had smoke breaks. Interesting. Interesting. I kind of like to think, would we? Maybe we would have been allowed out for a little wander or something. I don't know. I don't think we would have been. You know, if it had gone on for hours and hours and hours. There was no, you know, let us know if you need a break. There was none of that. None of that at all. Exactly. She was dismissed. She was dismissed. And who was it who found out? Who found out that she'd been blurting stuff out, drunk, making drunk posts, or her ex-husband was? It was Becky Hill. So are they insinuating, because this sounds a lot like slander to me, are they insinuating that Becky Hill was responsible for hacking into Timothy Stone's Facebook and making those posts so that juror 785 would have to be dismissed? There's no evidence that happened. And when they went to Timothy Stone and downloaded his Facebook, well, they didn't do that forensically, did they? They didn't get a warrant to Facebook for his complete profile, which may have brought up some deleted posts. They didn't do that, did they? They didn't subpoena Facebook, did they? They just went to Timothy Stone and said, let's have a look at your Facebook. And oh, look, the post wasn't there. Well, do you think it was because he deleted it? Yeah, most likely he just deleted it. It's a massive stretch. It's a massive stretch. So they're going round in Dick's Mercedes down the dirt roads of Colleton County, banging on jurors' doors, and thankfully, I mean, how is that allowed? How is that allowed? When there's an appealing process, how is it allowed for the defence to go and bang on jurors' doors to get information from them? They don't have to talk to anybody. They're allowed. Judge Newman told them, as does every judge tells you, that once you're excused from your jury duty, you can talk about the case to anybody who you want to. You can go public if you want to. Talk about it on social media if you want to. You can tell your families all about it if you want to, but you don't have to. And if anybody pressures you into talking, the judge should know about that. That's wrong, surely. Surely that's wrong. So going to the houses, going knocking on the doors, knowing full well, they know full well, this is Murdaugh country. They know full well that Dick Harpootlian has got a massive influence in that area. Isn't he a senator? He's high up, isn't he, in the government? So he turns up on your door and you think, oh, Christ, what do I do now? I'd slam the door in their face. I'd exercise my right as an ex-juror to not talk to him. Yes, he's a senator. I thought he was. It's unbelievable. So Senator Harpootlian turns up at your door and you know that you've convicted Alec Murdaugh, who's from like the most powerful family and have been for at least 4 generations in that area. Aren't you going to feel just a little bit nervous that they're on your tail? You're going to feel a little bit nervous. So maybe 1 or 2 of them decided to talk just to get them off their back. But whatever they said is irrelevant now. Whatever they said is irrelevant. It's especially irrelevant for the egg lady, Juror 785, who was dismissed before deliberations started. It's intimidation, it is. Even if they were polite, it's the undertone, isn't it? It's the undertone of it. Senator Harpootlian turning up in his Mercedes at their door. Yeah, it's threatening. It is, given the amount of power behind those people, behind that Old Boys network. There's a lot of power in there. I mean, look at how the boat crash incident was, how all that played out. You know, there was Alec and Randy Murdaugh both there, and the police couldn't get anywhere near Paul. And have you seen the body cam? Have you seen the body cam from that? Go and watch it. You know, and the police are like, oh, he's Murdaugh's boy. Come on. How that was handled. How the Stephen Smith case has been handled. Come on. I did a long video going through all of the notes, all of it's called the mate report. I went through the entire thing in a video. And just the amount of times the Murdaughs were mentioned. Now, I'm not saying that Buster Murdaugh killed Stephen Smith. I'm not saying that. But the amount of people who are associated with them, however loosely, and how things can be just shut down, and how an autopsy can be conducted, and it can be deemed a hit and run when there is absolutely no evidence whatsoever that this is a hit and run. None. Just the way Stephen was led, just everything, to me, is contrary to it being a hit and run. And even if it was a hit and run, where's the investigation to find out who that runner was? Isn't that a crime? Killing someone? It certainly is in the UK. Killing someone and then not stopping at the scene of that accident, it becomes a crime scene. I know full well I lost my son in exactly that way, by a hit and run driver who left him to die. So that man got done for leaving the scene of an accident because he was careless in his driving, but he didn't mean to do it. It wasn't a murder. He didn't aim the car right at him. He was just careless. I think he was asleep. He was late at night. He was a taxi driver driving illegally. Illegally. But anyway, and yeah, just didn't see him. And 3 other people had seen him. So they knew full well that he should have been able to see him, but he He didn't, because he was being careless. And then he decided to leave the scene. Instead of calling the cops and calling an ambulance, he left the scene. So he was done for that as well. So if that was the same in Stephen Smith's case, where's the investigation to find the runner, to find the driver who left him to die? There was none of that either. Why? Because the Murdaughs were involved. Who turns up like a massive ambulance chaser that the entire family is? Who turns up like the day after? Alec and Randy Murdaugh. It's massive. There's a massive amount of intimidation. Stephen Smith's family have felt it. Mallory Beach's family have felt it. So while the presser was on, somebody said, what's this a distraction of? Like, what are they distracting us using this? And I think there is a level of distraction. Probably because Buster's come out and spoke. There's a new documentary that's come out. Fox Nation have done this documentary. I haven't seen it. I don't even know if it's out yet. But I think it's called The Fall of the Murdaughs or something like that. So there's this new documentary out. Exactly. Randy Murdaugh is a lawyer, yeah. Why did Randy Murdaugh turn up? What was Randy Murdaugh doing there? At the crime scene of Stephen Smith. Why was Randy Murdaugh involved in the boat incident? Wasn't his kid. Yeah, the Netflix movie. I've seen that one. But seriously, Senator Harpootlian turning up at your door. And they've got nothing. They've got nothing. They're going to drag this out for years. I was really hoping these massive claims that were wild, absolutely wild, the stuff that came out. I was thinking this press conference, they're going to reveal something really hot, that they've got absolute proof that there was, some kind of judicial misconduct. But what they're doing is as bad. Yeah, that's true. He was. He's lost his privileges, hasn't he? He was doing interviews with Fox Nation from jail. Yeah, he just thinks he can do what he wants. Even though he's in jail, he just thinks he can do what he wants because he's lived a life of privilege. And a lot of you, while the press conference was going on, you were saying, who's paying for all this? Well, the Murdaughs are. Like, don't think that because Alec's in jail that the Murdaughs are done. They're massively rich. They've got millions of dollars between them. And they're a very close-knit family. So Dick Harpootlian and Jim Griffin are going to keep this going for as long as they can. Not just because they're long-term friends of the Murdaughs, but because they're being paid handsomely for this. They can keep this running for years. This hearing and this motion and this and this and this, they can bring more and more and more. I just hope it gets completely shut down. I just hope they say, look, who decides? Who decides this now? Is it the Court of Appeal that decides this? And they say, well, just because this juror said this and just because Rebecca Hill said this, you've got nothing. You've got literally, you are into the realms of hearsay. You've got no proof. You've got no proof. But they can keep it going for years and years and years. And that was just complete BS. They are Muppets. They are Muppets. And they are milking this. And who can blame them? Who can blame them? Because if the Murdaughs are going to shell out, hundreds of thousands into the millions of dollars over years, whose pockets is that going into? Jim Griffin and Dick Harpootlian. And they're going to say, thank you very much, Mr. Murdaugh. thank you very much. We, you know, we're going on vacation now to, I don't know, Mauritius or somewhere. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks. And then they put another motion in, and then they create another stir. They can literally keep this going for years. They really can. Yeah, but it's not Alex's money. It's the Murdaugh's money. So they had multiple properties, like very expensive properties. They were selling Moselle. How much did that sell for? And then you've got the entire Murdaugh clan that's also behind them. So, I mean, yeah, eventually they'll run out of money. A few years down the line. But Dick Harpootlian, look, he's 74 years old. You know, he's going to have a really nice, comfortable retirement when he finally, you know, they finally reach the end of the road with the Murdaughs. He can go off and have a really nice time in his retirement. Jim Griffin's 60, so there's a few years left in him. I mean, Dick Harpootlian, to me, doesn't seem that sharp. He's not the sharpest tool in the toolbox. It might be, no, he's a senator, so he must have something going for him, I would imagine. But he seems half asleep most of the time. Jim Griffin seems to be the one who does the work. Dick Harpootlian is just like the muscle. He's like the name, Senator Harpootlian. Jim Griffin's the person behind the throne who's actually doing the work. So there's a few years left in him yet. So he's going to keep it going. This is ridiculous. Ridiculous. It's crooked. Yeah, old school, old boys club. Absolutely. That's exactly what it is. They are Muppets. Stella and Waldorf. That's why they're on the screen. Will the same judge cover the retrial? Well, there's no way in the world with the information that we've received today that they'd have an entire retrial based on just that. There's going to have to be more. There's going to have to be. I need this 65-page motion. I need to read it for myself. But if there was a retrial and it was in the same county, then potentially they'd have the same judge. And we all want to see Judge Newman again, don't we? But, I mean, look, they can't, they've got to, if they spent the time and the money, you know, surely they'd have to take it out of Colleton County and do it somewhere that was, you know, I don't know, 120 miles away, whatever. Out of the, there's never going to be a fair trial for the prosecution. Because imagine, right, if they did it again, if there was a retrial in Colleton County, imagine what, you know, the jurors would know that if they listened to all the evidence and they decided that he was guilty based on the evidence, that it's all going to happen again, that they're going to get leaned on. No, I can't see, honestly, there being a retrial. Now, if like I said, I don't know who decides whether this is going to go forward. I'm assuming it's the Court of Appeal. It would be in the UK. It would go to the Court of Appeal. So that's like a different court, a different judge, different system. Can you get the motion? I don't know whether it's been released. Okay. Spell over 10, 20. I don't know that it's been released. If anybody's got it, if anybody's got a link to it, then I would definitely like it. Judge Newman is still residing on Alex cases of theft from his clients. Yes, he is. Yeah. Yes, he is. But like I said, you know, if it's the same system as in the UK, then it will go to the Court of Appeal, which would be a different judge. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know what goes on in Colleton County, South Carolina. Dick said the DA had 10 days to respond to him. My response would be piss off. Come back when you've got some actual evidence, not just hearsay. Judge Newman just convicted the boyfriend and the mother for murdering the 13-year-old disabled girl. Felt so sad for the young girl. Yeah, I've not watched that. I'm going to go back and watch that. So, yeah. District Attorney will shut them down like they did Lorry Vallow appeal. Yeah. Hopefully. Hopefully. I just can't. I mean, what new evidence could they have? I mean, you know, if they had evidence that you know, as defense lawyers, they don't have to present another suspect, do they? All they have to do is provide reasonable doubt that it wasn't their client that did it. But you would think, given the amount of evidence that the prosecution had against Alec, the only way forward for them, and this would be somewhat controversial, and this would be somewhat, you know, contradictory to what the defense normally do. But if they had evidence that it was someone else that did it, then surely that would be a perfect way to get another trial. Because if they say, look, Alex saw such a person and, you know, behaving strangely just outside Moselle or in the trees, bear in mind that they'd let all the kennel dogs out. Bear in mind. We know that the dogs were let out to have a run around. We know Maggie was doing that when she was murdered. So if a stranger had popped up on the property, well, wouldn't the dogs have created an almighty kerfuffle if there was someone hanging around? And we saw the kennel video. Did we hear any dogs? This was 4 minutes before the murders. Did we hear any dogs barking? Because there was a stranger in the vicinity. And remember, a dog's hearing and a dog's sense of smell is far superior to that of humans. So if someone had been lurking around in the vicinity, you know, with a... And we know the guns that we use, so it's not like it was a sniper, you know, long range, you know, sitting there from a little hideout somewhere, you know, out of the earshot of the dogs even. It wasn't that, was it? We know exactly what type of guns we used. And we know that Paul was shot at close range with a shotgun. We know that. We know that Maggie was shot at close range. Yes, with a rifle, but they were both shot at close range. So the kennel video was 4 minutes before the time that Paul and Maggie were murdered. And Alec is simultaneously the luckiest and the unluckiest man alive. And he just happened to not be there when this mysterious person was able to come right up to the kennels while the dogs were out. While the dogs route were able to come right up to the kennels. You know, you'd think if there was a murderer on the loose and the dogs were out, we'd have heard some kerfuffle or something, the dogs barking in the kennel video. We might have also, you know, seen one or more of the dogs shot, because one or more of those dogs most probably would have got angry and would have maybe confronted a potential murderer who shot their humans at close range. Those dogs were in a perfect vicinity to, you know, attack them. So you'd think one or more of the dogs would have been shot as well, but they weren't. The dogs were just hanging around playing. You know, got a chicken. You know, we know one of them got a chicken. Or was it a guinea? I don't know. So come on, guys. Come on, guys. If Dick Harpootlian and Jim Griffin really want to do their job and get Alec off, they're going to have to present that there was another murderer, suggest a suspect. I know it's, Bubba, yeah. I know it's unconventional for a defense to do that, but if they want Alec to have another trial and to bring in the potential for another suspect, it's not unheard of for a defense to do that. Not often, but it's within the realms of possibility for a defense to do that, to present an alternative suspect. So, you know, isn't that loads of reasonable doubt if there's potentially another suspect? Hunted dogs used to the sound of shooting. Yeah, they might be. They might be used to the sound of shooting, but they're probably not going to be used to a bunch of strangers turning up, or one stranger turning up. So, I don't know. Maybe the dogs were just really friendly and just let a stranger come up onto the property. Or maybe it was someone the dogs knew. We can all start speculating on who actually might have killed Paul Murdaugh and Maggie Murdaugh at close range with two different weapons. Come on. Come on, guys. Yeah, Bubba was a pet. Bubba was Maggie's dog. So you'd think that Bubba, you know, he went all over with Maggie. She used to take Bubba to the beach house when she went there. You'd think that at least Bubba, who was out, we know he was out because he was catching birds, right? Surely he would have defended Maggie. Surely. Anyway, we can all speculate. But ultimately, the press conference was, well, it was interesting, but disappointing from a defense point of view. Disappointing that they didn't have more to tell us. But I am going to try and find that 65-page motion. I had a quick look whilst I was talking, but I'm not good at doing two things at once. I'm not good at talking and finding it. But if anybody does have the link to it, I'm guessing it's going to be on Colleton County. If it's Tennessee or Idaho, I know exactly where to go. But I never do when it's Colleton County, South Carolina. Don't just show me nice pictures. Colleton County, South Carolina Court. Clerk of Court, Colleton County. Oh, Murdaugh trial, look. Indictment, jury selection. Yeah, well, so what? Media registration form, that's not helping me. Huh. Links, documents. What about documents? Travel documents, no. Links. Court docket search, roster, first time passport. I don't know. I'm going to have to hunt it down. It might not have been released. Look under Jim Griffin motion for retrial. What, is that actually there? I don't see that. I wonder if Eric Allen are going to take this up again. He's sick of the Murdaughs. He's very good, yeah. He's very good. Good night, Mike. I'm going to go in a minute as well. Has she been suspended? I would imagine she's not. There's questions going to be asked. Let's have a look. Clerk of Court. Just text me back to that. Rebecca Hill. She's still on the website. Oh, that's her email address. Is it email her? No, I don't want to email her. She's still on there. Can you see? So, no. She's still there. She's still emailable. That link there. I'll put this in the chat if anybody wants to have a look at the website. She's retired. Oh, she's retired, has she? She's still on the website, though. Right there. You can email her. That's an active link to an email. So maybe they just need to take that off if she's retired. I mean, if she's retired, then she's perfectly within her rights to write a book if she's retired. She retired 30 minutes ago. Yeah, that's true. Maybe. Look up the Clerk of Court by her name. Probably find it that way. It's there. That's her name there. Rebecca Hill. That's her name. Like, I can email her, but it won't be her that Jim Griffin. Hold on. Jim Griffin. Motion for retrial. So all I get when I write Jim Griffin motion for retrial, Colleton County, South Carolina, I get a bunch of news pieces. So I don't know whether the entire thing's actually been released. But I'll have a hunt. And if you're on the replay crew and you've got the link, then let me know. Let me know in the comments. Okay, I'm gonna go. We've had enough excitement for one day. All right, guys. Thank you for choosing to watch the press conference with me and listen to me deliberate about what it all means and what's going to happen. He's guilty. He's guilty. I don't know. I just don't know. Is there anybody in the chat who is still in the chat who thinks he's innocent? Seriously. What, Fox News have got it? I bet Fox has got it. Fox News. Watch Alec Murdaugh's surviving son speak out. I've watched that. Buster Murdaugh. It's just a general. Bombshell motion. They don't seem to have linked it. Oh, there's the book. I have to hunt it down. Like I said, it may not have been released. But anyway, I'm going to go. Thank you for choosing to listen to me tonight, or this afternoon, or wherever you are in the world. I'm guessing that for most of you, it's not morning now. Thank you for the donations. Welcome to the new members. Thanks, as always, to the mods. I don't think we've had any problems tonight in the chat. Everything's been nice and respectful and whatever. So, goodbye, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the day or evening, wherever you are in the world. And I'll see you very soon. Bye, guys.